Well, Nick's gotten progressively worse as they've gotten progressively better. So I think it's more Nick than the organization.
This team is weird about narratives, though.
By the way, I don't know if anybody heard Nick Sirianni's press conference yesterday. It was the worst ever. It was the worst ever.
Oh, I wish we started the show with that.
I mean, it was god awful. It was god awful. He wouldn't ask a question about giving a cowbell to Tank Bigsby and Saquon Barkley after the game. Like he answered nothing. Nothing. Now, and I wrote a column on SI so people can check it out if they want or not. But the point I was, he talks about all this joy. You need to have joy. He goes to Steve Kerr. He needs to find his joy. First of all, he looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like you watching World Series till.
Yeah, I probably look like I haven't slept today either. My bad, everybody.
He looked haggard. He looked tired. He's become basically. I compared it to Marshawn Lynch for people that remember Marshawn, who got fined for not talking at the Super Bowl, and he came out the next day and he said, "I'm here so I don't get fined."
Yeah.
That's what Nick is coming across to me. He's there so he doesn't get fined. He didn't ask. It didn't matter what the question was, whether it was football stuff. I asked him about Nakobe Dean. I gave him a freaking
layup,
batting practice fastball. Nothing. Zach Berman asked him about the cowbell for people who saw his post game press conference. He was like, I'll let the players if they want to let you know. I'm like, what are we doing here? I got to talk to this guy 3 times a week, 4 times after games. I mean, you're one of the most successful coaches in the Super Bowl era, literally. It's John Madden, George Allen, and Nick Sirianni. For those who don't know, that's how good the Eagles have been, and they're coming off an 18-point win, an 18-point rout. And this guy's like, as his resume grows, that's how I started it, he recedes. Should be the opposite. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's not helping his team. The reason I brought this up is because you talk about the injuries. I don't know a goddamn thing about the injuries. Because Howie bullies the players into not talking about the injuries. And he won't talk about the injuries. So I don't know what's going on with Cam Jurgens, other than I saw him and he wasn't limping. That's my extent, my expertise. Because they don't give any legitimate updates on injuries at all.
Well, if you take your personal out of it, because I understand where you're coming from as a reporter, as a beat reporter of the team, do you think it is meaningful for him to be that way? In terms of just not giving anything? I mean, you know what I mean? Just trying to keep close to the vest. It's a competitive league. Everybody, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
He plays the competitive advantage card. But what does a cowbell have to do with competitive advantage? Other than I said, Mississippi State gimmick infringement. How is that competitive advantage? That is the most innocuous question. Why are you giving out a cowbell?
Anything said will be used against them, and in a way, it is in this city. I mean, sometimes you just
he's got to turn the people there on Monday are the people that are there every single day that he's built a relationship with, at least to a certain degree, that have never burned him with any information, to my knowledge. These are the people you should trust.
So do you feel insulted by it?
Oh yeah, I feel insulted by it. But that's not the point. The point is, let's use AJ as the question. How many people in this town think AJ Brown wasn't really hurt last week?
There were
going into
definitely
the
some
game.
talk of that for sure.
He's hurting the team. Like, if you just say, hey, AJ's dealing with some stuff. He got hurt on the final game play against the Vikings. It was a tough tackle. You can see kind of, wrenched it. He's dealing with some stuff. Even if you say that, it's in people's mind. All right, he got banged up at the end of the game. It's in people's mind. Now, again, same as AJ, an unforced error when he goes on Twitter and says, using me while not using me, whatever he said. Unforced error. Well, it's an unforced error by Nick Sirianni to ignore the situation and not give at least something to the point of, hey, he's dealing with something. This is not bullshit because he's not happy about the offense, which I heard so many times. I'm not saying everybody, but I heard that from a lot of people. I'm sure you heard that from a lot of people. You can cut that off at the knees with just a simple, he's dealing with something. We'll see how he is. Other than we'll see. You'll get an injury report. And by the way, with all the gambling stuff happening with the NFL, with the NBA, excuse me, and Baltimore getting in trouble with their shenanigans with Lamar Jackson, this team's going to be forced to go in a certain direction when it comes to injuries and be a little bit more forthcoming. So you can argue competitive advantage, but you're also putting you're putting your players in a position to where people question them. And this goes back
But
long before.
do those narratives really matter if the people in the room who are behind those NovaCare walls know what the truth is? Does it really matter what we think about AJ Brown's injury? I'm just trying to.
Well, it doesn't matter from the standpoint of up to their jobs. I agree with you 1,000%. But the problem is then behind their complaint, oh, they do this, they say this, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. Well, why wouldn't they speculate? I have no information.
Yeah, but what is it? It doesn't impact anything other than that there's talk in the media of speculation.
Well, and they don't like it. So you
are right. And then they try and muzzle everybody who talks about the shit that they don't like.
I mean, it's fine if you want to go that route and say we don't.
Is the product of 4 years or 5 years now in Philadelphia, John?
Oh yeah, he looks like a president, man. He looks like he's aged.
Yeah,
tired, haggard.
It's a tough city. It's a tough media. It's a tough.
Yeah, again, I don't think we're that tough.
I don't think you guys are tough at all. I think the Eagles have made it so you guys can't really be tough.
I think they conflate all media together, and there's a group that do shit that they don't like that has nothing to do with the people that cover them.
Why are they so in love with controlling that though? Like just control what you can control. I mean, it's their fucking motto, for crying out loud.
It's everybody's motto in the NFL. Why does everybody? I don't know. They think they're, and it's not only the Eagles, but they think it's CIA level subterfuge. But Nick's taking it way too far. Like he doesn't. Again, I go back to the cowbell question. What the fuck does a cowbell have to do with anything? That is. We talk about layups.
Well, the flower didn't have to do anything either, and that got used again. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to look at Nick's point of view. I think he's at the point where anything I talk about, whether it's a cowbell or under center, is going to somehow be used against me. So I'm just not going to give anything on anything anymore. I'm going Marshall.
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree. That's his process. Look, I learned this from Joe Torre, speaking of the Yankees, who's like, you can do whatever you want as a head coach. It's your team. You can do whatever you want. I'm not, and in fact, I've said, you know what? With the competitive advantage stuff, I've even said, and I've told the Eagles, hey, it's bullshit, but if he believes it, that's fine. He's the head coach. I'm cool with that. But Joe Torre said, and it always stuck with me, like, if you you develop good relationships with the people that cover you, you'll get the benefit of the doubt. And this is a human nature thing more than anything. I'm
Right.
not saying he's got to kiss our ass. He's got to do this. It's human
Right,
nature.
but in a way, you guys are in control of a lot of the narrative around the team and the coach and everything like that.
Well, it's just common sense. If you develop, and he has a good relationship with most of us, but you know, the more you shut down, people aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's just you're making your own job tougher, in my estimation. Now, we're going to write what we're going to write, and if they play poorly, we're going to write they're playing poorly. If they write well, we're going to write they're playing well. I'm not talking about talk shows. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about the Monday press conference people,
Right.
which I said, which is the core group. There's no radio people. There's no nothing. Just the core people, and he's shutting down. I don't think that's a good thing for the fan base. I don't think it's a good thing for the team. I don't think it's a good thing for the players, which we don't get information on injuries and things like that.
It seems there's two types of fans, John. It seems that there's people who want honest answers to questions, and it seems that there's people who
there definitely is. Well,
hate the media so
yeah,
bad that they're like,
exactly.
yeah, go Nick, yeah, fuck the media. We have plenty of them in our chat right now. And then you have, somebody like this who says,
Which is fine.
Fans deserve real answers. I don't know. I think I fall right in the middle. I understand. I'd like more answers, but how much of it do you think is Nick versus the organization? Because I think it's the organization.
Well, Nick's gotten progressively worse as they've gotten progressively better. So I think it's more Nick than the organization.
This team is weird about narratives, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I first noticed it was the Doug Peterson era. So it's been going. It's not like he's the only one who does this. He takes it to a higher degree, but when Darren Sproles tore his hamstring, like all we got was he had a hamstring. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks, turned into 6 weeks, turned into 8 weeks. And you got all the fans saying, this guy won't get back on the field. How long does it take to get a hamstring? Then he finally gets back on the field. And we find out he tore his hamstring. So you have all, and this is, for anybody who's known Darren Sproles, he pound for pound, maybe the strongest player on the Eagles at the time. He's a tough guy. He's not. But, people were questioning him not getting back on the field, similar to AJ in a little sense. Well, he's not hurt. He's just upset. You're creating issues for your players. I think they don't see that for whatever reason. And it's not helpful, and it's not helping them.
Is it making you lose your respect for Nick?
First of all, my respect for Nick doesn't matter, but I know. I think he's very. I think anybody's listening to the show. I think he's a very good coach. I think people. I always generally defend him.
Yeah,
the people are like, what does he do?
I mean, I get comments here all the time that you're a mouthpiece for the organization because you defend Nick and Kevin Petula.
Yeah, well, exactly. So so I think that if anything, that proves my objectivity, because I'm not happy with the way he's performing his job personally with us, but I recognize he's what he is as a coach, and he's got a million plates in the air like Red Panda. I compared it to, for the Chinese acrobat fans, and I think it's wearing on him. And that's why I said he's got to find his Steve Kerr joy, which he always quotes to the players. Doesn't look like he's having fun.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does not look like Nick is having fun. I agree with that completely. Why do you think it's impacting the players negatively?
Well, I
Just
just
the
explained.
question and the stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's no, how many people asked you, is AJ faking an injury,
Right.
basically? Which he's not. But, if I say it, they'll say, "Oh, he's being a mouthpiece for the," I mean, I don't care. I'm going to tell whether he answers questions or not. I'm going to tell you if he's doing a good job, doing a poor job, doing a decent job, doing a mediocre job. This is not going to have an effect. But I will point out that he's giving less and less.
It's turning into sports is turning into politics in a way. It's like whatever administration is in is going to feed you a crock of bullshit about their administration, and that's just how it's going to go.
Well, that part of it's true, but he used to get into the football wonk discussions and at least give you something from that perspective. Now he's shut that down. And again, maybe he's just tired for whatever reason. There's a million things I always say. He's got young kids, he's probably never not sleeping because of that. But he doesn't seem happy to me. And we all talked about, the most miserable 10-1 team of all time. Well, similar to Brian Daboll being emotional on the sidelines about a call going the other way. Often teams are a reflection of their head coach. And if they're a reflection of their head coach, he better stop the misery act or the Eeyore act. Like AJ's got the Eeyore act going even better with the hoodie and he looks depressed. And
yeah.
It's like, something's going on.
Does Jalen kind of have that too, do you?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit of Eeyore. A lot of Eeyores on this team.
Vic is grump. As great as Vic is, he's a grumpy.
No, Vic's not an Eeyore. Vic is, he's grumpy, but Eeyore is more of like,
right.
I'm tired and
that's funny, man. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I get your point. I think I get all the perspectives here, but I could understand why you feel like you've never done anything to unfairly cover Nick, and it's almost like he's punishing you guys. But I don't know. I think
it's not about punishing. Again, take us out of it. The point is, you're not, as a fan, you guys aren't getting the information you should be getting.
Yeah,
and then you're making discussions like that poor guy. Like you can give any opinion you want, but if you don't have information, is that valuable? It can be if you don't care. Like the guy who said, well, the guy who wants to judge play calls yesterday. Yeah. Hey, Pete Carroll made a bad call in the Super Bowl. He didn't even call the damn play. He doesn't know that. But can I judge that? I said, sure, you can judge it. But he didn't call the play. So how valuable is that judgment? Like, if you don't have that information and you're out there saying AJ is this, AJ's that, how valuable is that? I don't know. Some people is valuable. The people who want actual information, it's not valuable. AJ's hurt. You wouldn't know that from the Eagles.
Yeah. I get it. A lot of people go here, and I think there's a very easy explanation for this, but I'll see what you have to say, John. Xander, why does Saban call the media rat poison? I don't think it has anything to do with what John's talking about, but that's just my opinion. I'll give you it. John, what's your thought on that?
Well, one of the things that people, again, Saban calls rat poison positive comments as much as negative.
Yeah, he's not talking about media contingency covering the game. He's talking about what the narratives, both positive and negative, do mentally to the players. Exactly. Which, to John's point, whether Nick answers a question or not, those narratives are still out there. That's kind of John's point. When you put out narratives or you don't give any clarity on AJ, now everybody speculates everything. Your players are reading this new version of rat poison, if both of them are rat poison, and that doesn't help either. So I don't really think that that's the right comment. Dabney, but
No,
I understand why.
and typical, Nick Saban will, also as simple as the biggest fans propping you up. Oh, you're the greatest.
Right.
That he thinks that's rat poison. So it's not just media. And there's certainly rat poison in the media. I'm not dismissing that, but again, even if fans do the same thing the Eagles do, and that's conflate every single media member together. And there's a huge difference between insert your favorite beat writer versus your favorite WIP host,
Yeah, I got you.
the biggest gossip columnist on WIP. They conflate it to being the same thing. If you want to compare, we'll use Zach because he asked the innocuous cowbell question to, again, whoever, the Howard Eskins of the world, or I'll use people who aren't on the air anymore, or the Mike Missinellis of the world, or the Josh Innes's of the world. Go right ahead, but they're not the same.
Good stuff. Interesting commentary, Nick. I think I do agree with you that Nick looks haggard. All right, he looks the
We
president
did yesterday. I mean, that's
I think he always does now. I mean, I think you're right about the president comp. You know that famous picture of Obama when he got into office, and the picture of Obama when he left the office, and they say you can do that with all the presidents, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's, like I said, he's got the third winningest coach in the Super Bowl era. I mean, if you can't have fun with this, what's it going to be like when, the cycle comes back, and you're just with everybody else in sort of a mediocre to average team. If you can't have joy now, again, maybe he's just had a bad day. But struck me that he just went on for 10 minutes or whatever it was and said absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, a lot of people think, hey, it's a good thing he doesn't give you anything because it's rat poison. Well, I got news for you guys. The rat poison is at a greater, it exists more now today than ever. More now today than ever. Because players grew up, John talks about the way people grow up all the time. These players grew up with social media, John. They grew up going on there today. I mean, that's what they're going to be. AJ Brown's 28 years old. He sees everything on social media. I promise you guys he does. He's posting himself. So whether they give John anything or not, I don't think that gets rid of the rat poison.
Well, I'll tell you what, there wouldn't have been any rat poison for me yesterday. He created the rat poison for me.
Here's Pumper. Let's go to some supers here. We'll get to a break. Pumper says, damn, MFers can't look tired anymore. Sometimes MFers get tired. We falling for the banana in the tailpipe here.
Yeah, well,
Oh, Pumper, you always got some shit.
Bumper's just he's taking the contrarian view.
Yeah,
I've already explained it might be, he's got young kids, could be a million different things. If you wanted to listen, you would have heard that. The banana in the tailpipe is take Ace Bailey over BJ Edgecombe. That's the banana in the tailpipe.
Clap back on Pumper. Look at that, Pump. BJ Edgecombe, I think he put up 26 last night, Pump. This kid is cooking. Where's Ace Bailey? He might be on the
bench. Check the bench.
In Utah. Is that where he is?
Check the bench. Check the bench in Utah.
Yeah. Brando says, on the injury stuff, it's organizational. Remember Peterson getting asked about Sproles? Yeah, John brought that up.
Yeah, I already brought that up. Well, definitely I brought up how he's Mekhi Becton, Howie's a bit of a bully when it comes to injuries. Now, Mekhi Becton basically, when he hurt his finger last year, showed us the x-ray of the injury. The 6'8", 360-pound guy can do whatever the F he wants. So, yeah, but they try to limit especially with lesser players, they try to limit any information on injuries as much as possible. That's true. That's an organizational thing. I'm just saying organizationally. So if you don't want to blame Nick, all right, blame Howie, blame Jeffrey, blame whoever you want. But the point is, it's not helping the players. And I brought up the Sproles incident specifically because a bunch of fans were questioning Darren Sproles, of all people, for not fighting to get back from a simple hamstring injury, not knowing it was a torn hamstring. He probably should have missed the season. And again, a bunch of fans are out there this week. AJ's not hurt. Well, how the F do you know if AJ's not hurt? But a bunch of you were out there saying it. Probably because you heard some rat poison from some goofball. Whatever. Doesn't help the players.
Here's the deal. Nick has a fever and the prescription is more cowbell.
Yeah, it's the great Will Ferrell sketch. But seriously, I mean, the question was, the Eagles put up, and by the way, the Eagles put up these clips. And that, the post-game talk with the players, and he gave out cowbells, as I mentioned, to Saquon and Tank for going over 100 yards. First time since 2013 they've had two running backs go over 100 yards. Why do you give him cowbells? I don't know. I wish I could tell you, because he wouldn't answer the question. Not that it's the most innocuous question in the history of mankind. Doesn't matter. Wouldn't have asked the question. Don't care, to be honest, why you gave them cowbells. Easiest answer ever. Because, insert the reason, move on. That'd be it. Couldn't even do that. But then, one of the things, and believe it or not, I got some shit. Zach Bond was mic'd up the other day, not whatever game it was, it was the Minnesota game. And he called, he has sort of a big brother, little brother relationship with Jihad. He's kind of like a little, I don't want to say bullyish, but he's a wise ass, and he's a good dude. Zach Bond is a tremendous dude. But he gives Zach Bond some of the business, like a vet, making fun, like Brandon. Brandon did it for years. It's not a big deal. You tweak a guy, and he called him dumbass on the mic'd up thing. And like, I asked about it, and people are like, what do you? I'm like, what? You put it up. And by the way, I know the relationship. I'm the one who can explain the relationship. Sort of big brother, little brother thing. He loves the guy. He's just giving him a little shit. I mean, it's weird. It's weird how much control everybody wants in this league. Not just the Eagles, but everybody.
The Eagles are bad with it too. There's Alexander. I love when John goes on these rants. And no, Nick should be a little more open. Part of his job is talking to the media. Don't make their jobs harder. I agree, Alexander, but I understand.
Perspective. Got nothing to do with my job. I'll get it some other way. Like, I know AJ's hurt. I don't know AJ's hurt because of the Eagles. I'll get it some other way. It's got nothing to do with me. It's about making his job easier, about making him less miserable, believe it or not. Some of the things are self-inflicted. Like, I'll say right off the bat, AJ Brown self-inflicts some of these things by his actions on social media. Well, when it comes to some of the narratives, like that one specifically, the Eagles have the self-inflicted wound by not being a little more forthcoming on what's going on. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. And there's some questions that are easy to answer. Like, when I give you a layup hey, what is Nakobe Dean, his leadership, and what he's went through going through that rehab? What has it meant to the team? What does it mean? That's the easiest question ever. Read his answer. Nothing.
Here's A-Team. Stopped watching Sirianni pressers a while ago. It only pisses me off. I only watch the coordinators and maybe some players. Shouldn't have them, in my opinion. Well, they need them, but.
Well, they're the only reason they have them is because they're mandated by the NFL, or I think they would get rid of them. But yeah, I mean, and I'll be down there later this morning for Vic Fangio, and you'll ask Vic a question, he'll answer the question. And guess what? The sky doesn't fall. And Vic has been pretty damn successful with this defense, and the sky isn't falling.
No, in fact, to your point, the narratives get corrected on the defense because of Vic's openness about some things. Here's B Pumper. Not happening, fellas. How are we going to pull a parenting 101? We have that at home. We have Nolan and BG at home. No trade for you.
Yeah, I know. That ain't good enough, is my point. Healthy Nolan Smith.
Nolan is an interesting contract discussion in the future.
Yeah, it is. I'm not going overboard with that contract. And at this stage, I bet, they wait it out. They don't go for the early extension. Now, if he comes back and plays lights out, maybe that changes it. I don't see that being as pricey as people assumed it would be at the start of the season. I think it's more a wait and see approach.